Evening, everyone. My name is Robin Brumfield, and I'm thrilled to be here as your leadership development coordinator. The current leadership development team right now consists of Kathleen McEnroe, the technology digital specialist, and Mary Sotomayor, our designated officer. We're glad to see that you were able to join us this evening, and we're confident you'll learn valuable tools to help you grow as leaders in your respectful councils and units. Before we get started, did you know that just by participating in this webinar, you can qualify for a special leadership pin? What do you have to do? You have to attend at least six of these webinars and absorb the knowledge that is shared. You also have to, the important thing is you have to apply the information that you've learned in your unit and or district and show us how you're making a difference. Once you've completed these steps, you've demonstrated your leadership in action, you'll unlock the exclusive leadership development award pin. It's not just a pin. It's a symbol of your leadership, of your dedication, and it's a symbol of the excellence that you're providing, that leadership excellence in your community. So now let's just dive right in. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We're asking everyone to stay muted. And either Kathleen or the presenters may go to the chat and ask questions. I'm not sure if she's going to do them, if they're going to do them at the end of the presentation or if they're going to do them, throughout. Just so you know, I just want you to know that each webinar, we have a special question. And the special question that we're asking for this webinar, and you got to listen for the answer, is going to be, let's see. Da, 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 da. What keeps families from showing up to your community, your PTA meetings? What keeps families? What keeps them? No, what keeps families? Yeah, I was right. What keeps families from showing up? I wanted to make sure I was right. I was like, wait a minute, did I say that right? So, on behalf of the New York State PTA president, I just want to thank you and welcome you for coming on board. We have a lot of things going on. Who knew that we might have a tropical storm coming up? She unfortunately is stuck at the airport. Who knew that the Knicks will be in the finals? And I know that Sophia's going to address that. So we're going to try to be as quick because we know there are people that might have the game on in the background, but we want to be thorough. So just as I introduce to you all the presenters for tonight, this is a really special PTA presentation for me because when I saw this PTA unit and I see that they are constantly winning at everything they do, from a national award to the local awards to the region awards, and they're in their awards they're getting reflections, and they're doing PARP, and they're doing everything that these the PTA tools that we're telling everyone this is what you need to do to make a PTA successful. So I'm going to introduce to you Sophia. She is currently the president of Meadowbrook, Meadowbrook,
No, Metal
Meadow
School.
Meadow School, excuse me, thank you, PTA. And she's going to introduce her team. But I just want to say to you, they have won everything, and just having a conversation, just listening to them, and you'll understand what it's all about to PTA with purpose. Go ahead, Sophia, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Robin. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us today. It's an amazing day. I know many of us are getting ready for game 4. Let's go, Knicks. But honestly, what better way to pre-game than with a PTA webinar? I did ask, and we did ask while we were waiting, before we get started, if you could just drop in the chat where you're from. We'll love to see which units, which regions are represented tonight. My name is Sophia St. Serin. I am the outgoing president for middle school PTA. I'm a mom to a fourth grader and a seventh grade niece who lives with us. And over the year, I've been actively involved in PTA through School of Excellence, Reflections, which is my favorite. That's how I started, and several committees. Beyond Meadow, I serve as the social media coordinator for Nassau Region PTA. And beginning this July, I'll be stepping into the first vice president for Baldwin Council PTA, diversity chair for Nassau Region, and leadership training specialist for New York State. So I'll be joining Robin and Kathleen. Personally, I'm the director of admissions professionally, I am the director of admissions at Gutman Community College, which is part of the City University of New York. And outside of that work, I'm a proud Girl Scout troop leader. I'm joined today by Helen and Carrie, and together we are excited to share the shifts we made over the last 2 years to move from activity to real impact.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Helen Singson. I'm currently the outgoing Vice President of Programs for the Middle School PTA. I also serve as the chair of the Diversity, Belonging, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. And throughout my time with Meadow PTA, I have co-chaired our annual Multicultural Festival and most recently co-chaired the No Place for Hate initiative. For the upcoming school year, I will serve as the Meadow PTA alternate delegate. I'm the proud mom to a fourth grader and a fifth grader who will be graduating soon from our school. And professionally, I'm a global immigration and mobility leader at Genworth, which is a financial services company. And I have been in the immigration field for the past 18 years. And outside of my day job, I am a nonprofit volunteer co-director of Make Us Visible's New York chapter, which is an Asian American education advocacy organization.
And hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Nick's Day. My name is Carrie Stevens. I'm mom to a second grader and a kindergartner at Meadow. I'm currently the outgoing treasurer for Meadow School PTA. For the past 2 years, I've supported and taken on a number of initiatives. This year, I chaired our Teacher Appreciation Week. I've led the grant application process. We won one last year, so I ran that program as well for Ready Tech Go. I've taken on the class captain, parent volunteer role for both of my children's classes pretty much every year I've been in Meadow. And I've also completed a variety of internal treasury projects to strengthen our finance controls and policies, which help to improve consistency and enable ways to make the money part of PTA transparent to our people. Next year, I'll be on the Nassau County's PTA's nominating committee. Outside of PTA, I work at Ernst & Young and I have for the last 22 years. I'm currently a global internal audit director there. I'm certified as an anti-money laundering specialist, a fraud examiner, and an internal control specialist. You can see why Treasury fell in my lap. I'm also the firm's executive sponsor for Bring Your Child to Work for the Northeast region, as well as I'm also a parent volunteer for my children's PAL track team. So I guess with that, I'm going to hand it back to Sophia to get us started.
Well, great. Thank you. So as you can see, I mean, we wear a lot of hats. So it's not just about like, oh, we all say it, parents say it, we don't have time to volunteer, but we make the time. And I just want to make sure we say this before we begin. I really want to be clear. And I know, Robin, we appreciate it. We're not a perfect PTA, but we've done a lot of things to shift us. We're a team that's worked with real constraints, real challenges, and a lot of real community dynamics. And we made small but very intentional changes that led to those meaningful impacts. So, and we could put this answer in the chat or, but I wanted to frame it to ask about a quick reflection, right? Like one question. Why do you think families don't join PTA or attend events? When we think about that, and you could put the answers in the chat, but we know the answers. Most of the answers happen in day-to-day conversations when we're doing our membership drives and we're thinking about ways to increase membership, get more participation. In many PTAs, there's a perception that involvement is limited to a very small group, or it feels very difficult to step in. And for some families, that perception comes from real experiences. But another very real barrier is time. Families are balancing work, multiple children, caregiving responsibilities, and for many, volunteering simply doesn't feel possible within those constraints, or even attending events. So what we realized is this: it's not just about who is at the table, it's about how the table is set. If expectations are not clear, if opportunities require large time commitments, or if there aren't, okay, I'm not there yet, or if there aren't flexible ways for families to get involved, then you're not going to see that, right? So we can unintentionally create barriers even for families who want to get involved. So we made a shift. We became more thoughtful about how we invite, how we communicate, and how we create different entry points for engagement, one that respects people's times and comfort level. And when we did that, we didn't just see increased participations. We made it easier for families to say yes, and in doing so, we strengthened connections across our community. As we head into summer, this isn't a time to wrap up. I mean, that's the reality, right? Like, it's a time to think about how to redesign. Leadership transitionings are happening. Systems are either being passed down or lost. And we have a real opportunity to rethink how PTA shows up in our communities. One second, I forget I'm the one that's sharing my screen. So to ground this work, I want to briefly introduce our school community. Meadow School is located in Baldwin, New York, Long Island, and serves a diverse suburban population with a wide range of family needs and engagement levels, especially in the post-COVID landscape. We serve under just under 600 students in grades K to 5, and we are an elementary school that supports students across a full range of learning needs. This shapes how we approach access, inclusion, and engagement in everything we do. And for the last couple of years, up until last year, we were also a Title I school. So equity and access has always been central, not in our programming, but how we connect with families. We currently have 309 PTA members. It's an increase of 2.7% from last year. Got that from givebacks. But one of the biggest drivers of our progress wasn't just internal. It was collaboration. So over the past 2 years, co-presidents across 5 elementary schools met regularly. We shared resources and we problem solved together. That alignment really helped us move faster and think more strategically about PTA beyond individual buildings. It was very helpful as a new president coming in, because a lot of times you say you go to council, but we're talking about, real day issues that are happening. We would just jump on a group chat to say, hey, did your school face these challenges? How did you solve this? Or we're thinking about doing a carnival. You're doing it. How does that help? So it was, before it was very competitive. One school trying to outdo the other schools, and everybody kind of felt like they had to work in silos. It was very beneficial for us, and we're going to continue to do that, and we're expanding that model across the additional e-board roles, and we're going to be partnering up with our council to do that. At the same time, we recognize a common challenge. Participation wasn't reaching as many families as we could. So we stepped back and examined our systems, not individuals. We looked at whether or not roles were clearly defined, are opportunity visible, and are there clear entry points for new voices. That shift became a turning point. Instead of asking families why they weren't showing up, we started asking them what needs to change so more families came. And through that shift, we saw measurable results, not just in numbers, but in depth of engagement. This year, our PTA was recognized with several honors, including the National PTA School of Excellence, the Hearst Award, which is the highest national PTA recognition for family school partnership, the New York State PARP Award, the New York State DEI Award. These weren't goals we were chasing. They were just outcomes of the work that we were doing because we were being very strategic and intentional. Another important shift that we made was partnering with our principal who joined our school 4 years ago. She's getting tenured tonight as well at the Board of Ed meeting, and with district leadership. We moved from bringing forward ideas to bringing forward fully developed plans. So when we met with her, we already gave her the who, what, where, and why. This allowed our principals to focus on just the when. Tell us when we could do it, right? We've already solved all the issues. She's seeing this, like whatever gaps needed to be answered. We presented that to her at meetings. So she was just like, oh, this is great. Oh, you thought about the issues that may arise. So now it's just like, this sounds great. So it's moving from discussion to action. And she would just say, yep, you could do this month, this date, this time. So she really appreciated that partnership. I mean, she of course loves all the awards and recognitions that is being brought for her, but she's definitely a true partner with the work that we're doing. At the district level, we also benefited from a new superintendent who prioritized PTA collaboration. He leaned in on the fact that he knew the presidents were meeting. So when he joined, he didn't want to have that assumption to say, oh, whatever the former superintendent is doing, that's going to work the same way. We asked him, how can we partner up with him? And he created opportunities like coffee with the superintendent, where leaders from the PTA and the e-board connected with him directly. We met with him in September, and then we met with him again early spring to talk about ways we can partner to make Baldwin a stronger school district. So that's just the landscape of Meadow, and then I'm going to turn it over to Carrie.
All right, thanks, Sophia. So we can move on to the next slide. So, when we think about sustainability, we focus on people. But what we realized, actually, it's the previous one, I think. Sophia, I think we have to go back a slide. Okay. Sorry, it's still showing volunteer structure, but it should be on the systems slide. There you go. Okay. So we focus on people, but what we realized is that people change, right? I mean, I think everybody sees that. It's the systems and the support structures that we put in that stay. So we grounded our work in 3 different anchors: clarity, continuity, and communications. With the clarity piece, we recognize that when people volunteer with the PTA, they bring enthusiasm and ideas and willingness to help. But that energy is most effective when we provide 3 things from the start: clear roles, clear expectations, and strong onboarding. Clear roles help the volunteers understand exactly how they can contribute and who they can turn to for support. Clear expectations prevent confusion by outlining responsibilities, timelines, what success looks like. And this is especially true for our volunteer leaders. And an effective onboarding helps all those supporting PTA feel welcomed, informed, and connected to the mission of the PTA. When these pieces are in place, our volunteers and leaders are more confident, they're more engaged, and more likely to stay involved. Instead of spending time figuring things out, people can focus from day one on making a positive impact for our students, families, and school community. The continuity piece, one of the biggest challenges any PTA faces is maintaining continuity as volunteers and leaders transition from year to year. Building sustainable leadership starts with creating systems that outlast any one individual. This year, we introduced role-based Google Gmail accounts to ensure important communications stay with the position, not the person. We also have a shared Google Drive to provide a centralized home for budgets, event plans, templates, historical documents, and that makes it easy for our new volunteers to pick up where others left off. We also use group-based tools like WhatsApp and various systems, including, e-board group chats, to help keep that communication organized, collaborative, and accessible. We also found training to be equally important. We encouraged our leaders to participate in Nassau region and New York State PTA trainings. Shout out to the New York State PTA for this webcast. So especially for specialized roles like the president, the treasurer, that helps to build confidence and strengthen governance. And then finally, continuity begins before the school year starts. I know Sophia mentioned it earlier, but bringing that e-board together in mid-July for coordinated brainstorming and planning, identifying priorities, assigning responsibilities, and creating a smoother transition for what we're going to do in September. When we invest in those systems and training and early collaboration, we don't just support today's volunteers, we're building continuity for years to come. On the communications piece, right? Strong PTAs are built on strong communication. The volunteers are more likely to stay engaged, informed, and connected when they know where to find information and how to stay in touch. I'm not going to lie. The first time I joined the PTA and then they started getting me involved, I had a hard time remembering who was who. I'm one of me and there's, 30 or 40 people I'm meeting at any given meeting. I had no idea who the folks were. But simple tools like our group chats help teams communicate quickly. We were able to ask questions, share updates in real time. We created volunteer guides and resource documents to give us reliable reference points and it really helped everyone understand the processes and expectations and key information. Consistent updates, whether through email, newsletters, regular check-ins, ensures that our volunteers and leaders feel included and are aware of what's happening in the group. That allowed people to spend less time searching for information and more time contributing their talents. It also helped build trust and collaboration and a sense of community, right? You're not wasting a lot of time trying to figure out where do I go and what do I need to do. You can really show up with the right questions and really try to volunteer and organize yourself to be participating in a way that's meaningful for yourself. We just found that these things matter. It builds lasting impact. And when those roles, resources, and communications are clearly organized, the leadership transitions are smoother. Institutional knowledge does not disappear because someone else did and volunteers have moved on to the next school or the different district. People don't have to start from scratch. Instead, each year is able to build on the success of the last year, which creates a stronger, more sustainable PTA for our entire school community. When we flip over to the next slide, Sophia, we also rethought how we support our volunteers, not just through the resource guides, but then we started thinking about the classroom volunteers. It's not just your leaders and your e-board members, it's everybody who's willing to support, right? We have to make sure we're building structure for them. So one of those important shifts was how we support them. And too often the response to challenges is asking people to do more. And instead we took a different approach. Instead of asking and saying, we need you to do this, we provided more structure. For all volunteers, we focused on making success easier. We set clear expectations from the beginning. We provided those same resource guides, but different support materials. And when someone was leading an initiative, we shared a budget, so there's no surprises. We also created PTA tax-free or tax-exempt accounts with our frequently used vendors like Amazon and BJ's Wholesale Club. So people weren't trying to, one, spend more than they should, but also knowing hey, we do use Amazon for this. We can make this easy. This can be delivered to the house. I don't have to go find a tax-exempt form, right? It's already set up. So we removed unnecessary barriers and made it easier for our volunteers to focus on the work instead of the paperwork. We also applied that same philosophy to the classroom parent program. Because being a class parent, and I have 2 of them this year, can feel very overwhelming, especially when expectations aren't clear. So we provided structure. We created a classroom volunteer training manual, and that's the QR code in the middle of the page, offered Zoom training sessions at the beginning of the year, and established a dedicated group chat where the parents could ask questions, share ideas, and receive support throughout the year. Each week, we also provided key school and PTA updates that could easily be shared with the class communities, helping to ensure consistent and accurate communication. So again, we have a chair of all the captains who puts together just a little bit of a document that says, hey, here's the Monday report. Feel free to share it with your classrooms. People can edit it as they feel necessary. They can add things that are specific to their classrooms. But at the end of the day, we didn't want people to worry about, did I forget the book fair this week? Did I forget about the Father's Day boutique? No, we just feed them that information and made it easier for them to just say, cut, paste, send. If that's what they do, then we know the message has gotten out and everyone's getting the same information. We encourage that centralized communication. We also provided templates for common tasks like teacher gift collections and sent timely reminders before major events and deadlines, and stepped in with support or coverage whenever needed. So if someone couldn't support their class that week, or if we're doing Teacher Appreciation Week and someone had a conflict with work, we have that community so we can step in and help each other, right? It's not that one teacher gets left behind or that a class has to fall back. We're all there to help one another. And those results were impactful. Our volunteers felt more confident, they were more connected and more successful. By reducing uncertainty and increasing support, we created an environment where people could focus less on figuring things out and make more of a positive impact for our students, our teachers, and the school community. And then my last slide for today, heading over to the communications. The biggest thing was looking for us to provide communication that moved families from just awareness to action, right? We wanted them to engage with us. And like many PTAs, we simply realized that sharing information wasn't enough. Families receive messages, but receiving a message doesn't mean automatically lead us to engagement. We wanted our communications to do more than just create awareness. We wanted them to empower families to take action. So that was a big lever for us. So we focused on helping families understand three things clearly. One, who we are. Two, how to engage. And the third is why the PTA matters. So first, we worked to make the PTA more personal and approachable. At the beginning of the school year, families received a flyer that introduces the executive board, complete with photos for easy reference. As I mentioned, I had a hard time remembering who was who. So now we have a little document that goes out and says, this is who your president is, and this is what she looks like, which you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen. During our first PTA meeting, board members personally introduced themselves and shared not only their PTA roles, but also a little bit about who we are outside of the school. We wanted families to see us not just as titles on a webpage, but as fellow parents, neighbors, and community members. We also looked for ways to increase visibility and accessibility. Our board members, and you'll see throughout most of the shirts, most of the slides, we frequently wore branded PTA shirts at events, which makes it easier for the families to identify us so they can ask questions and they can start conversations. These small touches help break down barriers and create more opportunities for connection. We also included a link to our vendor who offers a discount to PTAs on the resources slide. The last slide will have that. But if anybody needs a good person to make a t-shirt, trust me, we've certainly run the gamut on it. Next, we focused on making engagement easier. We maintained an active social media presence to meet families where they already were and to celebrate school events, volunteer opportunities, and student experiences in real time. We also created a Linktree hub that served as a centralized destination for everything PTA related, including our event information, our membership registration, fundraising initiatives, volunteer opportunities, and advocacy campaigns when needed. Rather than asking families to search across multiple platforms, we created a single pathway that made engagement simple and accessible. We also prioritize streamlined and coordinated communication between the PTA and the school. As Sophia mentioned, right, we started partnering with the principal. We wanted to make sure we have consistent messaging with what they're doing. That helps to reduce confusion. It reinforces key information and ensures that families receive a unified experience. Most importantly, every communication has a purpose. We weren't just announcing events. We're helping families understand why their participation matters and how they can get involved in a way that fits their schedule, their interests, and their comfort level. Because when families understand who you are, how to engage, and why the work matters, communication becomes more than information sharing. It becomes relationship building. And those relationships are what transforms awareness into action, action into engagement, and engagement into a stronger school community for everyone. And now I'll give it back to Sophia, who can share how we make our PTA meetings work for us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's talk about meetings, because I think this is where you either win or you lose people, right? And before I share what we change, I kind of want to ground this in my own experience, and I'm sure a lot of other families may feel that way, and then it allows us to think about it. So when I first joined PTA, obviously I was a kindergarten mom. I didn't know many people yet, and I was still trying to find my place. So I'm like, okay, let me join PTA. I walk into the cafeteria. It's like a little bit of mingling, people who know each other, saying hi, touching base. And then the meeting started, but then there wasn't really an opportunity to connect or feel part of the room. You know, we would move into updates, reports, a lot of reports, more reports, and then upcoming events. And then it went on for a while. The information was useful and everything was good, but it felt very one directional. And then we reached open discussion. This is time when you think like people are going to want to engage. And then you think like how many people really feel comfortable speaking in a huge room and asking random questions that isn't centered around a theme or, personal questions. But even at that point, it's late. It's almost 8:30. I came here straight from work. People are rushing out. So even the time that was built for discussion really didn't get engagement because it was so late in the agenda. So we asked an honest question. Did this meeting actually need to be a meeting? Because for many families, it could have been an email. So we started by listening. Families shared simple feedback, like starting earlier. So we shifted from 7 o'clock to 6:30. And even though it was a 30-minute difference, it made a huge difference for our families, right? But the bigger barrier was this. Families can't attend meetings unless their children come, and children don't want to sit through adult meetings. So we redesigned that thought. We introduced purposeful programming for students at every meeting. We partnered with community groups, families could attend, and we connected some of the activities to reflection or PARP. So we didn't just offer childcare, and Helen will speak a little bit more about that in a moment. But I want to talk about how we restructured meetings itself and how it helps us internally. So executive board, and it's up there. Executive board reports and updates were submitted in advance through a shared Google document that included a document. And then we included it as part of the reminder emails to our families in a view-only agenda that was sent out before meetings, right? And this might sound very minor, but it was like huge. Okay, even before an e-board meeting, I would send a Google link for each month and I say, hey, e-board members, put your updates on there. Put it as if someone's going to read it and have it be thorough, whatever, so that when families read it, they can see it. We used it to also frame our board meetings. We're now reading meetings minutes ahead of time instead of having everybody present their stuff during a meeting. We read it in advance, so we had clarifications. We did that. At the PTA meetings, because we've already emailed our families a read-only agenda that had reports from every officer as well as upcoming events, we cut out a huge chunk of the meetings because we didn't have to read every report out loud, right? We referred to it. They had QR codes that they can scan at the meetings to view the agenda and the read-only minutes. We had it printed out, so people had access to it. But the families reviewed the information ahead of time. They came prepared with questions. And then because we gave it to people in a doc format versus a PDF, we can go in and make edits live, and they could still scan that same QR code and get additional updates that were added to that meeting. It was huge because we didn't just spend our meeting time giving reports that could have just been in emails. So it gave us back some time, and how we used it changed everything. And then, like I said, it didn't just give us back our time, but it helped us with reporting. So everything was documented in one place. Minutes became easier to capture. Officers came prepared for executive board meetings, and information stopped getting lost through email and text, right? Sometimes it's like, hey, send me your updates, and it's going through emails, copying, pasting it, putting into it. Each officer was responsible to go into the document and update their own reports. This structure created clarity, consistency, and a shared understanding across the team. So we focused meetings more on discussion, decision-making, and one meaningful topic at a time. We created space for real conversation. You want to talk about school lunch? issues around recess, or current concerns that family felt that they needed to talk to administration about. Now we spent a chunk of time doing that. So families felt like it's not just an email. I really engage. I got to ask my questions, and they felt like, sometimes it's like, hey, I have a question. I want to ask this. Come to the PTA meeting. Oh, the principal is going to talk about that same issue you're talking about. So come to the PTA meeting. And then another thing that we added that was helpful is like having these quick icebreakers, just enough to help families connect and feel more comfortable in participating, and not just entering a space, taking a seat and sitting down for an hour and a half, just hearing reports. So I want you to think about this, and you don't have to answer this out loud. It's what actually deserves meeting time. And once you answer that, see how you can shift your PTA meetings in September to address that. Because before, our meetings looked one-way updates, long reports, low engagement. After that, we shared the reports in advance. The meeting focused on dialogue, and we had higher attendance. I mean, our first PTA meeting last September, we had over 100 families join. And our principal was like, I hope this is not just a one-time thing. And it didn't, because the second picture you see, I mean, you go on our Facebook page, we take pictures and highlight things that are happening. Attendance is there. Families are showing up to PTA meetings because they're feeling engaged. They feel like there's intentionality. It's not just reports. They're having dialogue, FaceTime with the principal, FaceTime with the teachers. We do whatever. Sometimes they say, hey, summer's approaching. We want to learn a little bit more about how we can prevent the summer melt or the summer slide. We had teachers come from each grade level to share what students and families can do to prepare for the next year. So we try to do things that's going to bring families in, because it's things that they want to know about versus things that we're just giving out reports to. And then if you scan this QR code, you'll see an actual meeting agenda from September, and it shows exactly how we structure our time and we prioritize engagement. And we really just use our guiding mindset of, if it doesn't require discussion, then it doesn't require meeting time. But we do always offer up opportunities for people to ask us questions. And again, all of the stuff that we're sharing, there is a resource page at the end that you can refer to and have access to, so you don't have to scan the QR code for now. And then next is Helen.
I'm sorry. Before Helen joined, there was a question in the chat. Are you going to take the questions at the end, or are you going to take a look?
Yes, I can't fix my Zoom right now. I'm feeling like
Okay. Or maybe one of your other team
Yep.
could. Yeah.
I'll attempt to answer on the chat, but we can also address it at the end.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about intentional family engagement. So this year we've been very intentional about increasing attendance and engagement at our PTA meetings, but we realized something very important. So attendance isn't just about interest, it's about access. And through the feedback that we heard from families, we learned that childcare was one of the biggest barriers preventing families from participating. Sophia had mentioned before, young students, children don't want to sit through adult meetings. Agreed. I definitely will say that that's a challenge. And so we made a meaningful shift. We created a dedicated space where students could engage in purposeful, enrichment-focused activities, while allowing parents and caregivers the ability to attend meetings, to hear important updates from the PTA and school leadership. Some examples of the student programming that we offered during PTA meetings include, for example, a bilingual read aloud and arts and crafts in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. That was one of our first one of the first student-based activities we did, and that was in September. And we also offered yoga and meditation sessions and fire safety learning with one of our local firehouses. And kids love to go in the fire truck and learn about fire safety. And so that was great. So what did this lead to? The result was these intentional experiences, they removed barriers to attendance. So it led to higher participation, stronger family connection, because if there was an activity that was still going on, for example, after, it was still ongoing, even after the meeting, then families could also, find time to connect and do the activity as well with their children. And it just led to meetings being more accessible to the entire family. Oh, next slide. So part of our engagement and inclusion efforts, we asked ourselves a simple but another important question: who is not here? And for us, it was the answer emerged very clearly, and that was male caregivers and dads were underrepresented. And participation oftentimes felt unclear or uninviting, and our PTA spaces didn't visibly reflect or speak to them. So we leaned into that and we took action. So we created a visible invitation by introducing Meadow Dad shirts. It sounds like a really simple, basic thing to do, but it's simple but powerful because it signals this message to the dads in our community saying, "Hey, you belong here." And we really saw the immediate impact of that. More than 50 dads engaged within that first week, and many continue to very proudly wear and use the shirts at school events. And it created visibility and identity and a sense of welcome. We also developed intentional programming. So purposeful spaces designed specifically for attendance, specifically for connection, not just attendance. These events were open to fathers and male caregivers and centered on relationship building. So for example, our Dudes and Donuts event. That was a huge success. It was a warm, welcoming morning with donuts. Who doesn't love donuts? I love donuts, but donuts, hot beverages, a dedicated space for the men in our school community to gather. And we also had a fun photo backdrop, which a lot of the dads and caregivers, they loved taking pictures with their children to capture the moments. And we also did Hoops with Heroes as another example. It was a high energy basketball event led by a Meadow dad, and lots of students and their fathers and male caregivers, they played, they connected, they had fun together. And so the turnout was really tremendous, and it demonstrated, not only the importance, but the impact of fostering male engagement. Because when dads and male caregivers feel seen, appreciated, and included, our school community becomes stronger. And students benefit from that positive impact, their engagement. Next slide. So to better understand the needs of our school community and to identify where we have opportunities to strengthen diversity, inclusion, and belonging, we had to take a deeper look and ask, who is not here and why not? So in some cases, we noticed specific groups whose voices or presence were missing. For example, the lower engagement from male caregivers that we just discussed. But beyond that, we wanted to understand what other families or perspectives might not be showing up, and what barriers might be contributing to that. So to begin gathering authentic feedback, we hosted an event during the first quarter of 2025. And that was called Let's Taco. So taco about Meadow PTA. It was a casual open forum setting. We invited parents to come sit and share what they felt was missing. And of course, we know good conversation happens over good food. So in this case, we had tacos. And in the first quarter of 26, we expanded this effort by conducting a climate survey in an open forum, which was led by our Diversity, Belonging, and Inclusion Committee. So the goal there was really to understand how families were experiencing inclusion and belonging, and to learn more about what we could do to promote diversity, belonging, and inclusion within our school community. So we intentionally kept the survey short. It was only 5 questions, but it was targeted short questions. We know caregivers are busy, and we ensured it was anonymous as well. So families felt comfortable sharing honest feedback. And the questions we asked, and I'll also drop this into the chat, the first question was, overall, does your family feel included in our school community and PTA sponsored events? The second question was, do you feel that our school events and programming reflect the cultural diversity, family backgrounds, and traditions of our community? The third question was, do you feel that PTA communications and events are accessible to all families? For example, language access, schedule flexibility, neurodiverse. And we asked folks to share feedback in the additional fields. We had that for every question because we wanted to ensure people had a space to share their feedback. And the fourth question was, have you or your child ever felt excluded or not represented at a school or PTA event? And if they're comfortable doing so, to please share feedback in the additional fields. And our last question was, what types of programs, celebrations, or resources would you like to see more of? And we had listed, a bunch of different types of programming. And so another key question that we also explored generally, more broadly, was what barriers exist and how do we remove them? So one barrier we identified and we spoke about before was meeting accessibility. So we addressed this by adding enrichment and the student activities during the PTA meetings so caregivers could attend without needing separate childcare. And we also focus on language access. PTA communications are translated, so our Spanish-speaking families receive the same information. And when needed, we ensure that there's a translator available during the meetings to support participation as well. And so all of this listening and outreach gave us a much clearer understanding of our community needs, which brings us to the most important part. So what was the impact and the results of this? So we formed the Diversity, Belonging, and Inclusion Advisory Committee, and this is comprised of parents and teachers within our school community to guide work and ensure our efforts reflect the voices of our community. We plan intentional, meaningful program throughout the year, including cultural arts assemblies that celebrate learning through music, dance, and storytelling. For example, we had our first Diwali assembly. We held our second annual Lunar New Year assembly, and we also had a Black History Month assembly. And we also host a lot of family events. So besides assemblies, we have stuff for families that builds connection and cultural understanding. So our Cocoa and Customs celebration that we had in December, that was created in partnership with our Future Problem Solvers student group. Families engaged on hands-on activities and enjoyed foods representing different holiday traditions. And I think one of the things that really stand out to me from that event was we also had a lot of teachers from our community who sat at the tables, and the students love seeing their teachers, especially after school hours. I don't know why, but they just love to see their teachers after school, even though they might have seen them all day. But it was really great, and it was we think part of the success of that event was the involvement of several teachers who were involved with that as well. And then we also had our Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day, and that really united the community as students, families, and staff walked together, led by our student safety patrollers, to honor Ruby Bridges and her courage and the legacy of her historic steps. And we ensure inclusive options for our 811 students, offering dedicated sessions or spaces that meet their needs. For example, we had our K-pop dance party, which included an all-ability session, so every student could participate joyfully. And we also celebrate Heritage and Awareness Months visually throughout the building with bulletin boards designed by our DBI committee, for example, for Hispanic Heritage Month, Women's History Month, Black History Month, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Autism Awareness, and much more. And we also curate and share vetted resources, including books and classroom activities that teachers can choose from during each month's celebrations, ensuring representation is both meaningful and developmentally appropriate. And so together, really, all of these efforts reflect Meadow's commitment to creating Meadow PTA's commitment and in connection with our partnership at school to creating an environment where every student and every family feels seen, valued, and included, and where belonging it isn't just a goal, but a lived experience that we experience every day.
All right, and I think Sophia, you're probably up with the next slide. We do have a question just about how we hold our meetings that I want to throw back at you before we kind of jump into that, which is the formats in which we run our PTA meetings. There was a question about whether or not we offer it in person or with Zoom options, and typically we do one format at a time. And there was just a follow-up question as to why we wouldn't do both. So I'm gonna
it's very intentional. Yep. So it's very intentional. We do have one in-person Zoom one, and it's is in January because of the colder months and things that are going on. So January is typically our Zoom meeting, but we spend a lot of time trying to cultivate an experience, and we want families to come out and engage. So we try to offer two modalities. I feel like we're going to lose on attendance and engagement. So we had to really come together as an e-board and really think about whether or not we were getting enough engagement in person and how important that was for us to bring families back to the school, to see the faces, to talk. And we thought about what really happens during a Zoom meeting. People turn it on and then they're doing a million things. The engagement is not there. And we tested it out to see if enough families were going to come out and they felt that the shift in our meetings was worth it. And clearly it was, right? Because it wasn't just a read only and this could have been an email type meeting, families really felt value in coming out and having designated meeting times, again, to meet with us, to talk to us, to share information or challenges that they were having, see the principal and the assistant principal and the teachers and share some concerns and learn about the curriculum. But we had parents who said, I look forward to the PTA meetings because I knew my child is going to engage in something fun, and then that they weren't just going to be sitting there coloring or just running around wild. They were looking forward to these opportunities. Now, if we did this shift and we saw that we weren't getting the gains that we wanted, most likely we would have considered doing more Zoom meetings or shifting to a hybrid, but we lose a lot with hybrid. And I feel that because we were getting the momentum and families were able to come, we also, I'm not sure, I know everybody's budget is different. While we don't have a huge budget for hospitality and we don't try to spend our money on food because, obviously in the bylaws, it says a certain percentage should be placed on hospitality, but we also partner with a lot of local community businesses that will give us things that we can provide so that families that are coming straight from work, they have snacks or things to do, or we tie certain meetings to activities so that we're also enhancing the knowledge base. So if it's Hispanic Heritage Month, we might do the exposure and provide certain things around that cultural things. But it was very intentional in regards to like really focusing on one modality. I'm not sure what member hub option we're talking about here. Oh, are you talking about the membership data in regards to? And then I want to say this too, because it may sound like a lot of people are planning, not even just for the meetings, but now you have to worry about planning for a children's event. We really partner with a lot of our community organizations again, right? We even do a call for volunteers to say, hey, do you have an expertise? Is there things you want to share? The teachers are the one that does yoga. Like they are excited to come after hours to do a yoga session for the families. And then they did one for the students. We partner with the fire department. We do a whole call out for our Baldwin Service Unit troop leaders to say, hey, if you're looking for opportunities for your girls to gain leadership and they want to do a badge program or they want to, do something, we have a dedicated space and time for them too. We can even provide the resources. If you need certain materials, we can work together because we know that by them volunteering, our adults can sit in on the meeting and engage in those conversations. So it's really about the planning ahead. And something we're trying this year. I know I'm outgoing, but and I think Catherine, one of the co-presidents, is on here. We know everybody is stretched thin, and even though we give a calendar in advance, a lot of time, a month before the activity happens, you're asking for volunteers to chair something, and there's very specific PTA meetings or activities that we do that we say, hey, there's 13 events, we counted it, there's 13 board members. We need everybody on the board to commit to leading one of these things. And they sign up for it knowing in advance that they're going to have to take lead in this activity. And taking lead doesn't mean you have to facilitate it. You just have to find the volunteers, coordinate, do whatever. And it's going to be on the shared document that we have at the end of this slide. And I think this PowerPoint is going to be shared with you so you'll have access to everything. One of the persons that couldn't present with us today, she was amazing, very instrumental in helping out with the classroom volunteer restructuring, because at the end of the day, they're our key volunteers. They're the ones that are spreading the words, giving updates. They're in the classes. They're in the chats. So she really wanted to make sure that they had the tools. So the training guide is something she initiated after a couple of years of hearing feedback and everything. But she wanted me to leave you guys with this, that if you ever want to remember the word smile, right? To start a conversation or say hello, be approachable, make connections, invite families to meetings and events, listen for feedback. Not all feedback are great, but you still listen to them. And then you just be open to changes, empower members to take on new roles. Because that's it. A lot of times when we think, oh, they saw the flyer, when someone asks you, hey, come to the next meeting, that makes a huge difference for a lot of our families. And even though we feel like Meadows, it's one of the bigger elementary schools here, but most of us know each other. But a lot of times in crossing, people, not everybody feels engaged or invited. So even just telling them, hey, I hope to see you, sending them that extra text message, and really engaging our classroom volunteers to help be our voice out there and share the feedback, it goes a long way. So making sure we take care of our volunteers is very important for us as well.
And so, Pierre, really quickly with the one in the chat, the Member Hub thing was because I had mentioned that we send our meeting agendas through Member Hub.
Oh, yes.
But it's not what we're sharing here. But on the next slide, I think that'll answer the question she was raising, which is how can she get this information? And we do have a QR code for the resources we've spoken about that you're going to go over just now. So just to clarify that, guys, two different things.
And then, like I said, the presentation will be shared. And then we also offered up like a link, a document, and we're going to update this resource QR code to add more stuff because we were all multitasking a gazillion things. So we try to put links to a lot of articles to kind of share about the assembly so you can kind of see things that happened. We shared something that we share with our events coordinators. So we try to provide some resources in there. So we hold a meeting in September, October, November, no meeting in December, a Zoom meeting in January, no meeting in February because of Founders Day and all the stuff that we do around there. Again, we also put our Facebook link in one of the chats, but I guess I could put that in here really fast. If you want to go down our Facebook, you can see, I mean, I'm very particular. We have a parent Facebook group and people can post whatever they want on there and ask questions. That's fine. We have our PTA page and we brand it because we want when a family goes there, they kind of see the updates. They have questions about events. It's easy for them to access. But you can kind of see the storyline of the last few years. We had another PTA page, but obviously those leaders didn't give us access, so we did have to create a new one just to keep the momentum going. But the LinkedIn was real. The linked tree, it's also a really great app to use. And as nonprofit organizations, you can apply to get the premium one for free. And you can kind of scan the code on one of the pages to see our LinkedIn tree. And we kind of update it. And then we fell off. I'd be very transparent. We didn't update it later in the year because of the other ways that we were communicating. We felt like families were getting it that way, that we didn't need that actual venue for them to get that information. But we all provided our email addresses. We love talking PTA. I would have put my cell phone number on here if you wanted to text me anything. I'm great with multitasking and sharing information, but we really love what we do and we're excited, and it's like a great momentum, and it's not just us, it's all the schools in Baldwin. So we're just happy that we're able to do this through PTA.
I just want to thank you, Stephanie, and uh, Helen and Carrie, because you guys are absolutely fantastic. The information that you provided, oh my gosh, from the time you started talking, I started writing things down. But I want to go back to a couple of things, just a quick question. So what is it that stops families from coming? Because you told us things that make families come. So what would that answer be?
Well, some of the barriers is the time,
The time.
the time, the structure of how we do things and making
Mm-hmm.
sure the communication is there, it's clear,
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
inviting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and taking that extra step of being approachable and actually going out, you're not just e-board member on paper, you're actually living it. So when you're out there, and not all of our executive board members, do pick up and drop off. Some of our students are
Mm-hmm.
on the bus, but it's just engaging our members and our families in
Engaging them.
whatever. Yeah.
It could be a series, and if and those people who are using this information for the award pin, you should have listened to what Stephanie just said, because it's not just one answer, but we all know that lots of things that could hinder what progress. It could be just us. And what I really appreciated about what you said was the willingness. You came to a PTA meeting in kindergarten, second grade, third grade, whatever, and you're saying, sometimes while you're doing stuff, it's just like we're talking at them, talking at them, talking at them, and just like you said, it's a limited of time
Mhm.
that people, they're only here for a short period of time, and then they're like, okay, I gotta go. Because when it comes time to open dialogue, it's at the end. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you guys did, you said, what, we're gonna give our reports and everything up front. So we have to talk about this less, and we really want to hear more from our parents. I think that first of all, I can't point one thing that's that, oh yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, that's it. Because I think collectively, everything that you guys are doing and the information that you shared with all of the listeners here tonight, this evening, I think it was phenomenal. I think it was phenomenal. Thank you so much for your tools. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you. I wrote some things down. I not some things. I got pages of stuff. But it was phenomenal. Absolutely awesome. You can stop sharing. I think we're done. But it was
Stop
great. It
recording.
really
You
was
want me to
great.
stop?
No, yeah, you can stop recording.
Okay.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you all. I'm gonna